Good morning. I just want to find out if you can hear me.
We can hear you.
Good morning.
Good morning,
Morning.
Honorable Pilankulu.
Good morning.
Morning, Chair.
Good morning, morning, members.
Chair, I cannot see you. You're speaking to Mado. I think
I don't know what's happening, but I've opened my.
Yeah,
video.
I can see your video. So I think you're on your video under your video on your background under the background. You need to deselect. I have the screen green. Green screen, and then deselect as well that mirror my video so that we can see you properly. So you just need to go on the background, and then you'll see the two.
I have a green screen.
Yeah, deselect that one. Don't make sure that it's not selected. And then same with mirror my video. Make sure that it's also not selected. And then if you can then turn the phone to be on landscape.
It's on landscape now.
And then, okay, I need you to then, because it's on auto rotate. So you need to also remove auto rotate on the phone.
Why this thing today? Because I use these things and I never had this.
You never have problems. I don't know, but just need to remove auto rotate so that when you put on landscape, because right now
I can't see that auto rotate here. It's only chart, meeting setting, minimize meeting, background.
No, auto rotate it's on your phone.
But it's not appearing. So where to touch? Because it's not appearing here.
Let me call you. Let me call you.
Ella. Yeah. I'm not using a phone. I'm using the iPad. Good morning, good morning, good morning, honorable members and everyone. Good morning, members.
Good morning, Chair.
Good morning, Chair.
Morning, 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 morning. We are going to start with our meeting. The secretary, can you please flag the agenda for us?
Good morning. I just want to hear if you can hear me.
Yes, I do hear you.
Yes, I've got my 3G, and when I connect, it gives me the message that yes. Please. Yes.
Morning, morning, everyone. We're now going to start with our meeting. We don't have a luxury of time. We've got our agenda flagged there. The first item, it will be the chairperson's opening remarks. Then National Strategic Plan on Gender-based Violence and Femicide, led department's overview of phase 1. The first presenters, it will be the Department of Women, Youth and Persons with Disability, followed by the Department of Justice and Correctional Services, followed by the Department of Public Service and Administration, then Cooperative Governance, Employment and Labor and Communication. Then we go for deliberations. And then the issues about gender-based violence and femicide by the private sector, led by Dr. J Dlamini, and then discussion and the committee business. So we've got a long meeting, but I believe that if the department can just get in and give us the critical issues in order for us to accommodate each and every department and the deliberations thereafter. Because the issue is not for us to get the presentation, but it's for the caucus to be afforded enough time in order to engage with the presentation. And thank you very much. Can I get anyone to move for the adoption of the agenda?
Yes, Chair, I move for the adoption of the agenda.
Thank you. The agenda has been moved.
Chairperson, my name is Judith Chabalala. I second the mover for the adoption of the agenda. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Honorable Chabalala, for seconding the move for the agenda. We're now proceeding. Honorable members, IT have asked me that when we speak, please open the videos because this session is being televised or it's on air. Not all of us, but those who will be speaking, just open your video in order to be seen, unless there are some challenges. And thank you very much. Honorable members and ministers and deputy ministers, officials of the department, parliamentary staff, IT and the media session, good morning. We're now starting with our meetings. We did receive all the reports as multi-party. Now we're looking forward to hear the presentation from the department. I'm now not going to waste time. I'll call upon the Department of Women, Youth and Persons with Disability to lead us. I don't know whether the minister is with us. If she's there with us, then she can start and give us the person who's going to present. Thank you very much, Honorable Minister, if you are there.
Thank you very much, Chair. Is the Director General. The Minister is not here, but if I'm allowed, I could read her opening remarks, and then the official from the department will make a presentation.
If you are sent to do so, please.
Thank you. Thank you.
DG.
Thank you.
Over to you.
Thank you. Chairperson, Honorable Ministers and Deputy Ministers, Honorable Members of the Multi-Party Women's Caucus, all government officials present here, good morning. I would like to take this opportunity to firstly thank you for this engagement. We are brought together today by commitments to our shared vision of a South Africa free from gender-based violence and femicide. Gender-based violence and femicide remains a critical challenge facing our society today and a blight to our democracy. This past Monday, I visited the family of the Nosicelo Mtembeni, who was brutally murdered at the University of Fort Hare. This is one young woman who sadly paid the final sacrifice and became another statistic of femicide. Behind the high gender-based violence and femicide statistics are young women, children, mothers, sisters, grandmothers, and the LGBTQI persons who have every right to be safe, to live, and to realize their full human potential. The Cabinet adoption of the National Strategic Plan on Gender-Based Violence and Femicide coincided with the unprecedented global health crisis, COVID-19. Against the background, we have harnessed roles, resources, and responsibilities of multi-stakeholders to ensure mainstreaming of gender-based violence and femicide efforts. It is indeed great that the National Strategic Plan on Gender-Based Violence and Femicide is anchored on the principles of accountability, coordination, and leadership. Pillar 1 is indeed the anchor of the National Strategic Plan, as it sets out to develop the architect at national, provincial, and local levels that will facilitate a cohesive, coordinated, and grounded, as well as a multi-sectoral response to gender-based violence sketch. The Interministerial Committee on Gender-Based Violence. A high level and cohesive political leadership is key priority for Pillar 1. The President remains at the center of the national response. The IMC on gender-based violence has remained cognizant of the lethal affront. Since the formation of the IMC last year, we have had 6 meetings to discuss pertinent issues and find solutions to ensure that we are responding appropriately to this challenge. This demonstrates political will and anchors the provision of strategic guidance and political leadership. The IMC on gender-based violence and femicide has served to ensure integration of the National Strategic Plan in government planning processes and that it yields concrete and tangible results. The IMC is supported by a technical task team comprising key departments of the relevant ministries. We remain committed to build and bolster an architect that is coordinated, agile, adequately resourced, and responsive to gender-based violence and femicide. Administratively, we have strengthened accountability within clusters of directors general in an effort to ensure that directors generals are kept in the loop on progress and areas of improvement in the implementation of the National Strategic Plan. The achievements of the first year implementation, and I think all of us might have seen the President launching the report. The department will take you through the achievement for year 1. The overall focus has been on institutionalizing the plan across government and building a firm institutional foundation to foster greater government-wide accountability on its implementation with the following achievements. Appropriate institutional mechanisms have been established at various levels, and they included the following activities: embedding the National Strategic Plan on Gender-based Violence through provincial and local engagements. Our focus during the year 2020 and this year has been on institutionalizing the National Strategic Plan within government. This is a necessary strategic intervention which lays the ground for the successful implementation of the NSP. A great deal of work has been done in terms of localization of the National Strategic Plan, and the department is driving the institutionalization processes, as well as mobilizing a whole of government and society approach to gender-based violence. It is for that reason that Caucus is taking the lead and supported by the department in embedding the National Strategic Plan within the district development model. This model has heightened focus to reach even the most remote areas in the country. The department is working very closely with local civil society structures in realizing this objective. Implementation of pillar collaboratives have been established and functional. These collaboratives offers a multi-sectoral platform for engagement and joint interventions across all pillars. The National Strategic Plan Year 1 Reflective Report. In most instances, the hyper-endemic gender-based violence and femicide levels mask all the efforts from government and various stakeholders to address the scourge. However, it remains important that we reflect on the progress and be able to cement and sustain the achievements while closing the gaps. The presidency, in partnership with my office and the Department of Planning, Monitoring and Evaluation, have compiled the year 1 of the implementation of the National Strategic Plan report. This is a reflective report which provides a review of the efforts to address gender-based violence in line with the NSP prioritized initiatives. A key achievement that has emerged over year 1 is that the promise of effectively mobilizing a government-wide response is starting to take shape, even in such a difficult time as we are in. As part of accountability by government, on the 30th of August, we hosted the first multi-sectoral national engagement forum on the NSP, and it was well attended. The purpose was to share the year 1 reflective report and provide a space to collectively reflect on the work done collectively. The theme for this year was national accountability for delivery on the National Strategic Plan. A key takeaway emerging from this forum is that a whole society approach to addressing gender-based violence cannot be overemphasized. We are well into the second year of implementation, and we need to continue to strengthen wider multi-sectoral accountability for delivery. The task ahead is still daunting, but working together and learning together, we shall overcome. Without further ado, I would like to thank you once more for this opportunity and hand over to Ms. Esther Maluleke, who will do the presentation. Thank you very much, Chair. Malibongwe.
Thank you very much. Mani Esther Moshi Ge. Over to you. Didi G. Maluleke.
Sorry, I was muted. I'm sorry. I just greeted you, Chairperson and honorable members. And I was saying I'll quickly just run through the slide, just really giving highlights in terms of what we have done in respect of Pillar 1. for the previous financial year, which is a reflective report where we really wanted to look at where we are since the launch of the National Strategic Plan. What you see on the screen is the outcomes of Pillar 1. I just thought we should perhaps just remind members what the outcomes of Pillar 1 are, which is bold leadership, strengthened accountability across government and society that responds to GBV. We also seek to strengthen multi-sectoral coordination and collaboration across different tiers of government and sections of society based on relationships of trust that gives effect to successful implementation. In as far as leadership is concerned, with the National Strategic Plan, high leadership level of leadership has served to mobilize a much wider societal base against GBV. And just reflecting on what has been done with this pillar since the launch, we are aware that the President has been at the forefront leading national response to GBV, and that the Interministerial Committee on Gender-based Violence was established in June 2020. And during the first year of the rollout of the NSP, IMC has served to ensure that there's integration of the strategy into government planning processes, resourcing, and ensure that it yields concrete and tangible results. The process of establishing the council has been halted to ensure that we have a bill that regulates the mandate and operations of the council. And the draft legislation is currently underway. Next slide. So year one really focused on institutionalization, and I think the minister's remarks actually covered that very well. And the reason for institutionalization, focusing on institutionalization, it's unless we have the targets of the NSP as the deliverables that are integrated into plans of government and are budgeted for, this strategic plan is not going to fly. So we started with the basics to make sure that the NSP forms part of the mainstream of any program of government that is implemented, so that we ensure that they account, because that's the only way they can account, and that we provide leadership to ensure coordination and collaboration in this regard. So we have been providing, as the department, technical assistance, engaging with departments at various levels to ensure that these targets are mainstreamed into APPs, that the GBV is a standing item in FOSAD meetings, and we are aware that Parliament has developed an oversight framework to ensure political accountability. In February 2021, the private sector launched what we call the GBVF Response 1, Fund 1 rather, and it managed to raise in terms of pledges 128 million, which was contributed by various private sector organizations. The fund follows the principles enshrined in the NSP of harnessing the roles and responsibility and resourcing of all stakeholders. Government also pledged when the launch of the private sector fund was 21 billion. And this is the money that is pledged from the baseline allocations. In other words, these are not separate budgets, they're part of the budgeting of the department. And the pledge,
Sorry, Sis Esther. Honorable Manganyi. Honorable Manganyi, can you please switch off your mic?
Oh, sorry.
Thank you.
Sorry for that.
Okay.
Ish.
You may continue, Ms. Esther.
Thank you, Chair. I was saying the 21 billion that comes from government. It's allocation that is made from the baseline of government budgets. And they've pledged this money over the next MTF, the current MTF period, which is the 3-year period that we are currently in. The process of localization of the NSP in provinces is taking shape, and we are really fast-tracking this. And because provinces are also showing agency in terms of establishing and revitalizing multisectoral structures, this goes as far as district and local level. The department also collaborates very closely with COCTA to ensure that NSP is embedded in the district development model. For us, this is a first prize. If we get it right and ensure that planning at local level, at community level on national strategic plan, it is done and done correctly, and that resources are allocated, we think we can really make a big difference. Next slide. Quickly, in as far as collaboration collaboration is concerned, I've made reference to COCTA, and this is what we are seeing, which often we don't emphasize and we don't reflect very well in this report, is the fact that collaboration happens within government as well as externally. Within government, really, beyond just working closely with COCTA, we've been working closely with a lot of departments, and oftentimes they are reaching out to us and saying, we need help. How do we mainstream or integrate these targets of the NSP into our planning? And we've been really providing that support, and it has been really welcomed, and it makes our work very easy. But we also have what we call the collaborative platform that was established. And because there's a gap, ideally, the National Council is the custodian of the National Strategic Plan, but in its absence, we thought we can't just wait for the council to be established. We need to roll out the strategy. And that's how this collaborative platform came into being. To date, the collaborative platform has grown from 36 to 82 organizations, civil society organization, labor. We have, for instance, the private sector representation. We engage on various targets per pillar of the strategy. We also have the faith-based collaborative platform, and they're also seeking to see how they can support us in rolling out the strategy in various faith-based platforms. The platform implements high-level rapid interventions and broader outcomes of the NSP, and continue to grow in indication of progress and bolstering multisectoral collaboration. I've made reference to the FBO. I don't want to belabor the point, but in order to ensure that there are no delays in implementation of the NSP, the department also is seeking to build capacity of the unit that is responsible for the rollout. And we have recruited 3 additional officials, and we say they are a secretariat because they're complementing the work of the department. And we appointed them one at director level and others at deputy director level. Next slide. And I must say they've been a very good source of support and increasing the capacity of the department to deliver. This slide just shows an effort by the collaborative to really reach out to society and share information about work that has been done by this collaborative in as far as implementation of the NSPs is concerned. We just established the website where you can access the information, the address is there. If you want to see what work is happening, but also we would like each stakeholder to feel comfortable and free to also share information, because the challenge now is getting content. We want content, we want to flight it on the website so that we can see, have a 360 view of what is happening in as far as the NSP implementation is concerned. So this website is very critical, and I would like to really urge you to go into the website. If you have any useful information in terms of the work that has been done that we have not heard of, please feel free to share with us so that we can post it on this website. We also have social media platforms. They are fairly new. Again, we are popularizing them so that we allow South Africans to engage with us on these platforms in as far as gender-based violence is concerned. We've also launched for the first time a newsletter that you see on the extreme right. We'll be producing the second one. Again, it's various stakeholders sharing information about work that they're doing on the ground. Next slide. In as far as Pillar 1 is concerned, some of the work that has been happening is monitoring and evaluation framework that we've drafted. We've started the consultation on this draft, but it's actually a pack. We've broadened the framework that is in the strategy because we've identified gaps in terms of some of the things that were not included originally. But we also are seeking at the same time to have a plan, an operational plan of this strategy, because the strategy is at a very high level, but we need a plan that helps each stakeholder know exactly what are the things that they should be doing on the ground to actually fight the scourge of gender-based violence. So we are working on that plan. It's a rigorous process. It's an iterative process. We do backwards and forwards in terms of really ensuring that we get buy-in firstly on the targets with departments, the indicators, that they are verified, that departments are very aware of what indicators to refine them, ensure that they are measurable, that we will be able at the end to monitor, evaluate, and be able to report on those targets. So this is the work that we started in year 1 and are continuing. So we're hoping that by the end of the financial year, this pack, which will have tools for reporting that are going to be used by everybody, not only government, but also civil society and stakeholders, they'll be able to use these reporting tools to tell us in terms of what they're doing. So the framework also outlines the theory of change, as I said, technical indicator definitions, data flow processes, roles and responsibilities, very critical of each stakeholder. It's reflected in that framework and the requisite capacity to implement. As I said, we started consultations on this. Yesterday, we just had a session with provinces because we want their inputs. They're very valuable, but they're also responsible for implementation. So we want them to have sight of this pack so that they can tell us whether it will work for them, so that they report accordingly. We also have developed the draft comprehensive national prevention strategy. Again, for us, this is another critical deliverable, because we really need to stop violence before it happens. We can't carry on the way we are doing, responding after the fact when women and children are either killed or raped. So this prevention strategy is critical, and we are hoping by the end of the financial year, we would have concluded this process. We are consulting again, starting with the theory of change workshop that we are planning to have in the next 2 weeks. Next slide. This is just to show, and I'm moving towards closure, Chairperson, in year 1, how the reporting looked like in terms of compliance. In year 1, we had 50% of compliance of departments out of the 30 departments. Only 12 departments were reporting consistently without fail. Remember that initially they were reporting on a weekly basis, but later the president requested us to report on a monthly basis. So only 50% of departments were consistent and reporting. And then we also had 50% of departments, about 17 of them reporting, but in a very inconsistent manner. In other words, 1 month they'll give you a report, the next 2 months they don't send a report. And then we had about 4 departments that were not complying at all. But that picture is changing. As of this month, which is end of August, last month, end of August, we submitted a report and we are pleased to report that it has improved. We had 26 department reporting last month. Next slide. Just reflecting on what happened in the last financial year. We noted, as we were consolidating these reports and analyzing them to look at trends and what is happening on the ground, we noted that departments are mainly reporting on activities, outputs, not outcomes. Remember that our approach to monitoring and evaluation, it's outcome-based as government, but we were far from getting outcomes of this. Of course, you need to have enough time to begin to see the difference you are making on the ground. So it's partly the reason why during that early time period, we couldn't have departments reporting on outcomes, but rather activities of the targets. But we also noted that there was a lot of non-alignment with the National Strategic Plan outcomes, and that's the technical support that we've been giving to ensure that not only do departments buy in, refine out these indicators, but also they align the NSP with their planning and budgeting. And we noted also that the pace of reporting was slow. I've made reference to the number of departments that were reporting during the first year, but we also picked up that departments were very repetitive in their reporting. They will send you the same information for 2 or 3 successive months, but that picture again is beginning to change, and interventions were not at the scale to create impact, and interventions from civil society and other stakeholders were not reflected in the reporting, on the monthly reporting. Safe to say that the only work that was reflected was the work done by the collaborative. And the reason being, civil society needs to sign off these reports at the request of the president, but they have not really yet agreed on who would represent them to actually sign off the reports. So we are not receiving the reports as yet, but it's something that we are working on and continue to engage in how best this can be done. Next slide. Yes, in terms of lesson learned, I've lost the slides, sorry. Yes, what we've learned in the first year of implementation of the strategy is that high level and cohesive political leadership matters. It matters a great deal. We really would like a championing of this at levels of all government, across all government, within departments, by our political principals, by heads of departments. They really need to provide leadership in this, and they've started doing so, which we greatly appreciate. A greater buy-in of taking multi-sectoral approach, it provides foundation for implementation. We know that as government, we can't successfully implement the national strategy. We need our stakeholders to assist us because of capacity issues. Grounding the NSP at local and provincial level, again, that bottom-up approach that we are talking about in the strategy is beginning to take shape. Because violence happens in communities, in households, behind closed doors. So that's really the level that we need to crack this sketch at. What we need to change is the mechanisms to strengthen multisectoral reporting, as I referred earlier on, technical capacity to implement, a lot of technical capacity. For instance, we need to build strong capacity of municipalities. We can have this strategy and targets mainstreamed into plans and budgeted for. If we don't have warm bodies with the right skills and knowledge to actually roll out programs, it's going to remain to be a challenge. The issues of resourcing at different levels remain a big challenge, which we would really like the members to assist us with, to really push that this work is properly resourced to enable all of us to implement the strategy effectively. Use of communication channels. I've indicated earlier on the efforts we are making to try and really improve on communication. We are aware that we're not doing it as well as we should. And building societal wider ownership for delivery and accountability, again, very critical. I think the next one is my last slide. For year 2, we want to consolidate and strengthen institutionalization. It's work in progress, is continuing. We are now going as far as the local level, where we are establishing what we call rapid response teams, which will be constituted by professionals in a particular community, for instance, nurses, police, civil society organizations that work within that community, so that when there are cases of GBV, they're able to respond to them with agility and be able to intervene. We need to ensure finalization of the National Prevention Strategy, as I said, fast track the Council legislative bill, and address systemic blockages and challenges, and strengthen ongoing communication. Chair, I think this is the last one with concluding remarks. We need to move from policy.
How many last ones do we have?
This is the last one, Chair. Let me. I thought
please.
Each time, but yeah, this is definitely a last one. Thank you.
Please.
The move from policy formulation adoption to effective implementation represents one of the key challenges to address the vision of the strategy. We are fixing, Chair, the plane as we fly, because we just don't have time, the luxury of time to plan properly, to ensure that everything is in place. We need to, hit the ground running. So the sense of emergency and agency means changing the way we work and getting those in the system to work differently. And I can't overemphasize the role of the Multi-Party Women's Caucus, which is paramount and important in building accountability for effective delivery. This is the decade of action, and achievement of the NSP priorities are crucial for delivery on the generation equality commitments. Thank you very much. Thank you for your audience.
We can session Sesi Esther. Good day, Kwengeta. We're now proceeding with our program. I'm going to call upon the Department of Correctional Services. I've seen the DM is with us. DM John Jeffrey.
Chairperson.
DM, hello.
Chair, it's Honorable Sharif.
Honorable Sharif, is there something that you want to say?
Chairperson, please, Chair, we have a very long program. I think there's quite a few departments coming to present. And I think it will be critical for the Multi-Party Women's Caucus to have enough time to engage on the reports, Chair. When you opened the meeting, you said that they must do their critical points. Chairperson, I heard a lot of hyperbole in the last presentation. Please, can we make sure they go to the critical direct points without all the extra words, so that we can discuss and engage in enough time, and they can answer our questions.
Thank you very much. I think they have that. I was also going to repeat that because I've seen it with the first department. Correctional services, over to you.
Good morning, Chairperson.
Morning.
This is Ms. Kale Pillay. I'm the acting DG in Justice and Correctional,
No problem. Take us through.
Thank you. Justice and Constitutional Development for today. Chairperson, I just want to introduce Ms. Advocate Praise Kambula, who leads this program in our department. She will take us through the presentation. Thank you very much, Chair.
Thank you.
Thank you, Chair. If you can take me to the next slide. We will be presenting, as we have been requested to, on the implementation of the department on Pillar 1 that speaks to accountability, leadership, and coordination. If you can take me to the next slide. And the next slide. First is to say that then our presentation is going to be centered on the 2 articles that are for the Presidential Summit Declaration that are an expression of the principles of accountability, leadership, and coordination. Article 1 is stating that political, government, business, and community leadership must take responsibility to support the cause of eradicating GBVF. And now if you get now to Article 2 then expressly extends that to families, that families must take the responsibility of ending a GBVF. So what it means is that we have the Presidential Summit Declaration against GBVF that puts emphasis on accountability, starting from individual level, going to community, societal level, and also the institutional and political levels. If you can take me to the next slide. So I will not dwell on this. So this is the slide then that gives us a depiction of all the pillars. But I think that it will be necessary for me to say that as a department, we are taking the leadership in the implementation of Pillar 3. That's the one that we carry and most of the indicators. So our presentation, if you can take me to the next slide. Our presentation then is going to be actually focused on key interventions, number 1 and number 2 of pillar 1, and just to express then as to what is it that we have done as a department in phase 1 of the implementation, or the year 1 of the implementation, to support the aspirations of the NSP Pillar 1. You can take me to the next slide. So if you can take me to the previous slide, please. We will move then, Chairperson, from the premise that GBVF is rooted in patriarchal social norms, gender inequalities, socio-economical inequalities, family dysfunctions, low social value that is often attached to women and girls, and most importantly, the lack of accountabilities. The lack of accountability. But if you look at this, is that some of these core drivers cannot be addressed by law. But then I will take the committee to the 3 bills that the Minister of Justice and Correctional Services introduced in Parliament in year 1 of the implementation of the NSP, and he was responding then to the indicator that is in Pillar 3 of the NSP. But when we were drafting the 3 bills, we ensured that we encapsulate the principles of accountability, leadership, and coordination. And this presentation then will be showing then those clauses where then we are promoting accountability from individual level up to the political level. If you can take me to the next slide. I would therefore start then with the Domestic Violence Act as a principal act, just to show that accountability has been there even before the amendment of these pieces of legislation. For instance, with the Domestic Violence Act, it requires that any person with a material interest in the well-being of the complainant may apply for protection order on behalf of the complainant. So what it means is that any person that is the parent, the sibling, the member of the community, the neighbor, has a responsibility in terms of this legislation to take, to apply for the protection order on behalf of the complainant, including the member of the parliament can also take that can also make the application on behalf of the complainant. And it also says that any person may apply for protection order on behalf of the child, and also may any person that is not more than 3 persons may go to court and give support to the complainant, where the complainant then is appearing in any proceedings that relate to domestic violence, just to go there and give support. So we call that the court accompaniment services. So what it means is that then it places that responsibility on any individual on the streets to take the responsibility to contribute in ending GBVF and domestic violence. If you can take me to the next slide. Now, in tightening the elements of accountability, leadership, and coordination in the Domestic Violence Amendment Bill, we have included a chairperson and a number of clauses. So the first that I will talk to is clause 2A that states that the functionaries must have the responsibility to report domestic violence, and that any adult also has an obligation to report domestic violence committed against the child, persons with persons with disabilities, or older persons. So these are the clauses that place the responsibility on any person, and also they are also coupled by another clause that criminalizes then the failure to do so. And we also have a clause then that places the responsibility on the electronic communication service providers, that they must furnish the courts with information, because as you know, chairperson, that many of the domestic violence incidents occur through SMSs and the social media platforms, videos that will be circulated them. So then we are placing the responsibility on the electronic communication service providers to provide the courts with this information. And it also then places, there is also another clause that is subsection 1, on legal aid in South Africa to provide legal aid services to complainants, respondents, and children when applying for protection order in court. If you can take me to the next slide. So the same bill also now includes a new clause, and this is the clause then that requires the DG of constitutional development, justice and constitutional development, to develop directives for the court clerks, so that we monitor then the services that are offered by the clerks of the court, and ensure that then they exclude the element of secondary traumatization. And also then it says that we have a system that traumatization at every service point. If you can take me to the next slide. And the same bill then it places a similar responsibility on other DGs, like the DG for the Department of Health, Social Development, Basic Education, Higher Education, Science and Innovation, and Communication and Digital Technologies, that they must also take the responsibility of developing directives for their officials, and for the same reason of ensuring that there's accountability at every service point in the criminal justice system. If you can take me to the next slide. Now I'm moving to the next bill. The next bill, the Criminal Law and Related Matters Amendment Bill. It is also a bill that supports then the aspirations of the NSP Pillar 1 on accountability, leadership, and coordination. It has a clause, the clause 4, that requires a prosecutor to place on record the reasonable reasons for not opposing